we've done like ones.
Welcome to the latest episode of our CarpFix Live, and the main purpose of the CarpFix Live is to do an interactive Q&A with yourselves. So get your questions in, anything carp fishing related, whether it be about rigs, bait, location, our future content, recent films, anything carp fishing, like I say. And if we like your question, we can give you a free tub of these exclusive mainline white banoffee pop-ups. They smell absolutely amazing, and I've caught loads and loads of fish on that recipe in the past. They are nice exclusive baits that will certainly put a few fish in land in it. We are going to be doing the draw for last month's members only giveaway. And this month we are doing the draw for £500 worth of DNA bait. So thank you to DNA Baits. In each of these, how many winners are there, Scott? Five?
Five winners.
Five winners.
Five, yeah, and RRP's it's £500 giveaway, isn't it? So it's £100 each, basically.
Yeah, £100 for £100 worth of bait for 5 lucky members, and they will win themselves 5 kilos of 15mm shelf life Freddy Maids. They will win 1 kilo of stick mix, 1 kilo of pellets, corker wafters mixed sizes, half tone pop-ups in 12mm, corker pop-ups in 15mm, the hydro spod syrup, the bait soak, and the liquid food. So a lovely little package there.
The boilies are and some of the pop-ups and things, they're from the bug range. It's been out a little while.
Yeah.
But that's if you're wondering what range it's from. There is a little trailer on the website, but yeah, it's from the bug range. So
DNA bug bait bundle.
Yeah.
So next month's giveaway is 2 sets of Delkim TXIDs. So 2 members will win themselves 3 TXID buzzers and a receiver each. So that's for next month's winners, and we'll do the draw for that during the next CarpFix Live, which should be early February. I suppose we should move on to talk a little bit about the aquarium.
Yeah.
A little bit
it's
about
been
the
well
aquarium.
received. So
yeah, really well received. I knew it was a good film. Scotty knew it was a good film. But we'd like to hear your feedback. What exactly it was that you liked about the film? Because we had so many good comments that we'd like to recreate it again. So let us know in the comments, as well as your questions, what you loved about the aquarium film. If you haven't seen it, it's a 2-part film, which is a new one for us. We anticipated just making one film for it during a week's angling, but with 2 anglers, myself and Derek, both fishing, and the amount of fish caught, really nice dark ones, crystal clear water. We got some really cool drone footage, some underwater footage of the fish coming to the net. It was just, it was one of those sessions where everything collides to give you the perfect outcome. It was also filmed at the perfect time of year. I think that the if you can get the always like a week session to end with a good moon phase at the back end of it. And I always think the first week in November is a great time. And this session run from the back end of October into a new moon at the beginning of November. So perfect. The trees and the leaves were all beautiful colours. The temperatures were just dipping off. The fish looked amazing, like in the dark water, in the clear water. Sorry, all dark, really dark colours. And Derek and I just, were good friends, got along really well. Both catching loads of fish. It wasn't like one of us was in the going swim and one of us wasn't. To start with, we fished on the areas that we were recommended. But when it got dark, hardly saw any fish jump during the day. But when it got dark and when we were catching fish in the night, kept hearing them jumping like dolphins, but far away. And it took a few, because of catching, you don't want to change anything. But after a few days, it sort of dawned on us that the fish were more on the other side. And that's where it comes in part 2, where we move our rods further out to the far side, and then it really kicks off. I think Derek stole the show at the end with 350s in the last couple of nights, which is amazing. Anything?
he was over the moon with it, really, wasn't he?
Yeah, yeah. It was, at that time of year, winter, very Essex. Winter is just around the corner. But that if you can get that timing just right, back of end of October into that first week in November, you get everything. You get the fish at the best weights. The scenery looks beautiful, and it sort of sends you into the winter with a good session under your belt. So
people have I know through Rob who we should do a shout out to Rob, actually, Rob Burgess, who kind of put us onto the lake as well.
Yes,
So
yeah.
thank you to Rob, but also. I know people have booked on to go to that lake. I don't know if there's CarpFix members. I'm presuming so, because they're the only people that have really seen it.
Yeah.
But if, say that people were going to go back in, say, summer, for example, maybe like July, August. I don't know when people are going to go, but or any time, what advice would you give people if they were going to go back for that particular lake? Bearing in mind some of the weed might clear a little bit, potentially.
Yeah, I don't think it's the sort of weed that will die over winter. It's a sort of an algae weed. It's almost like a conifer tree, as in it will stay there
unless you take it out.
And I think the owners have got plans to treat that. So it's going to be very difficult for me because it might not be the same lake by the time they get there.
Yeah.
As in not the same lake, but the situation might be different. But my advice would be to fish for one bite at a time, as always, and build your spot rather than throw loads of bait out and think that you're going to... We used loads of bait in that session, but we never put a lot out
how
at
much
once.
do you reckon you used?
Cool. Well, I think Derek and I had 20 kilos of boilies each. We had at least 10 cans of corn each, which is, I think there's 2 to 3 kilos in those cans.
Yeah. Like the trade kind of.
Yeah. I had I think 4 gallons of caster. I had some maize, and I had a couple of buckets of hemp, and we pretty much used it all. Because we did usually I wouldn't take that much bait at that time of year, but if you keep filling the boat up and keep sending it out there, we got through it, and they were really passing the bait.
They were.
One thing worth mentioning is that the aquarium wasn't officially open to the public, so the fish weren't under immense amounts of pressure. They've been fished for by friends of the owner, and it's not like they've never been caught before, these fish, but they're not under that relentless pressure that most holiday venues are, and that obviously makes a difference. When people are going to go to this lake, it's going to be open, but I think there's some really, really good fishing to be had there, and like I say, fish for one bite at a time, fish with heavy, strong tackle, and that'd be my main piece of advice. There's clear spots, look for the clear spots, or that blanket weed that's in there, that algae sort of weed, you could definitely fish chods over that. Yeah. That's the perfect weed to fish, like what they call a long running chod rig, where you've got the bead right up the line, so the lead penetrates in and the pop-up sits on top. Yeah. I'm certain you could catch some fish.
You could, for where you ended up fishing, you're potentially saying that you could just cast over because they were almost sitting in the weed and going over those clear spots.
Yeah,
you could literally just cast onto that weed and probably pick them off as well.
Me and Derek were fishing really far out at the end, but the 2 swims opposite where we're fishing across to, you'd be fishing 30 yards out, like flicking out ounce leads and just catapulting boilies over the top.
Obviously, though, the pressure pushed them over there, didn't it?
Yeah.
So if you're say a group, there's 4 of you.
Yeah.
There's pretty much 4 sides to the lake. Yeah. So if you're dotted around, if you put yourself strategically around the lake, you could almost, because they've got nowhere to hide.
No, there's nowhere they can actually get away from you.
If you're going from all angles, they're probably going to end up in the middle or moving around a lot.
I would always hedge your bets and in the middle on those commercial fisheries. I think on the worst case scenario, if you're in the middle, you're only halfway wrong. If they're all down one end, you're only halfway from them. But if you're down the wrong end and you're at the opposite end, and the fish are at the opposite end, then you can be miles away. So I would always hedge my bets on those sort of venues to be in the middle.
Good luck if you're going.
Yeah, good luck. Yeah, lots of people have booked apparently. So if you're a CarpFix member that's gone out and booked that, good luck to you.
Yeah, and you're allowed to go back to France apparently from today.
Yes, that means I need to get my booster. Have you had your booster?
Yeah.
So you've had all 3?
Yeah.
I need my booster. Leave me
You
boost.
can probably just go and turn up.
I've had about 10 texts.
Have you?
Yeah.
Rob Burgess, do you want to do a little intro to? We've got obviously got Rob on board, and his new video comes out tomorrow. So.
Okay, so for 2022, we want to produce more films per month, so more fishing films. So previously we were doing a session film with either me or Tom, and then it was a big carp story, then it was a Techers, and then it was either Jacob or Mozza being the lineup. But we want to produce 3 fishing films per month. So the plan is to have a film with Rob Burgess, who is the Corda coach, a professional angler. He's done very well on the carp match circuit. His finesse and attention to detail and his rigs is absolutely second to none. You know, everything he does is just done with that degree of finesse that just makes it that, I don't know what the word is, just perfect. You know, everything he does is very neat and tidy, and a great guy to learn from. So we're going to have a film from Rob every single month. Welcome, Rob Burgess. We're going to have a film from myself or Tom Maker every single month, and we're going to have a film from Lee Mozza Morris every single month. So they're going to be our 3 fishing films. The other film will either be a technical film or a big carp story, so probably a 50-50 mix of big carp stories and technical films, and we'll be also on top of that doing the live feed. So we're just trying to produce more content for our members on top of obviously the giveaways that we do, just trying to give a little, as much as possible basically.
With more members it brings more requirements really. People want different things. So we're trying to if you've got any more constructive criticism, then fire it our way, because we will listen. So that first video with Rob going out tomorrow was at Willow Park Fishery, which is like I don't know if you've ever been there.
No, never been there.
It's like a commercial. There's a few lakes there. They do like match fishing and stuff, but the main lake's a carp lake. I think it's about 10 or 12 acres. It's a really shallow lake.
Yeah.
It's basically, it's not an island, but it's in the middle of the lake. There's a really shallow plateau. It's like 2 foot deep. And then the rest of the lake, it's deeper around. It's like
almost like a donut, a reverse donut.
It is reverse. But anyway, so we've got a little sneak peek trailer, which will go out tomorrow, that we'll show you now.
Perfect.
Oh, what's that? What's that? There's a fish. That same area where they were the other day. Jeez! Welcome to my first CarpFix instalment, and you've joined me at Willow Park Fishery in Hampshire. It's the middle of December, super cold, but we're going to give it a good go. It's been like SeaWorld today out there. And again, right on me, look. I've really tried today. I've persevered with the zigs, the solid bags, and I've also got that baited spot established. This is pretty much my go-to zig rig wherever I'm fishing. Tail rubber onto my main line, leg clip, and underneath the leg clip I've got a size 8 quick cane swivel. I've done that fish. Oh. Thank the Lord.
Yeah, so that's a little brief insight. So there were fish showing everywhere, but he ended up struggling a little bit. Still got carp on the bank, but it was very, very difficult. Seeing fish. What's it like for you? Seeing fish show in front of you and you can't catch them. Is there something else behind it? Are the fish just not quite? Are they not happy?
Yes, a lot of the time it's frustrating. That's very frustrating. If you know the location is obviously the bit that you got to get right. And if you're on them and you can't convert, then you start trying to change everything. That's you know what works because you're an experienced angler. But sometimes it's just not quite getting it right on the day. I haven't watched the film and I wasn't there, so I don't want to say.
Well, so we arrived. I'm not going to go through the whole thing, but we arrived and he was constantly changing stuff up to try and get a bite, because they were like, we arrived, found the fish pretty quickly.
Yeah,
they started showing and they didn't really move from that area. Maybe briefly when the wind changed, like he said at the start as well, which you'll see. But yeah, very very quickly found the fish and he kept changing it until he got a bite.
Yeah.
So yeah, he just constantly changing his stuff.
Yeah.
which was good.
Well, yeah, we're going to look to get Rob on the next CarpFix Live, is it?
Yes, and start of probably second week in February, I think.
Yeah, so he'll be coming on next CarpFix Live, hopefully, and answering your questions. So yeah, look forward to that.
Yeah, I've got.
Have you got a few questions?
Yeah, I've got one that I just want to find that someone sent on Instagram that I remembered about. So this is from Adam. Looking for some new rods for this year, thinking about the following two models. So he's got 12-foot Daiwa Longbow DF X45 3 3/4,
Yeah.
or the 12-foot new Daiwa Infinity X45 3 3/4. He's currently using 12-foot 3.5, so quarter of a test pound.
Of the same rod.
That he doesn't say. I'm gonna guess maybe he's upgrading potentially.
Well,
looking for a little more range.
Yeah, I had the Longbow 3.5. So if that's what he's currently got, I've had the Longbow 3.5s, and the difference between the 3.5 and the 3 3/4 is substantial in that model. In the Infinities, it goes 3 1/4, 3 3/4. In the Longbows, it went 3.5, 3 3/4. And I really did notice the difference in the 3 3/4 model. Obviously, the Infinity is going to be slightly better, but it is slightly more expensive. So if you can stretch to the Infinity and it's within your budget, then by all means go for the Infinity. But the Longbow is a good alternative. But if I was going to buy the Longbow, I would only buy it in the 3 3/4. I like a stiff rod because I want to have that power in reserve if I need it. Unless you're fishing small waters all the time, but because I'm fishing such a vast array of different types of water, I do like to have a powerful rod just because it allows me to cast big leads in heavy wind with heavy line further out, and that, getting the take is the most important thing. People say a stiff rod, you can pull the hooks, but truth be told, that the rod only pulls as hard as you pull it. So I just think it's better to have a powerful rod. And yeah, so like I say, my advice would be go for the Infinity if you can stretch to it. But if you can't quite go that far, then the Longbow is a great alternative.
Cool. Callum Oswell has asked, what would you say is the best winter bait?
It all depends on the venue. Maggots get a lot of great publicity for being great cold water bait, and they really, really are. But if you've got nuisance fish, lots of roach, bream in your venue, then there's lots of venues that I've fished in the past that if you try to fish maggots, you just have no chance. Even on little park lakes, sometimes they can be full of eels and whatnot. So if it's a carp-only venue or there's not too many coarse fish, the maggots are definitely up there as one of the greatest winter baits. Sweet corn, again, is another great bait. I think it's at its best in clear water, personally. Doesn't have to be in clear water, but I think it's truly at its best in clear water. And a single pop-up, single pop-ups, bright ones in the winter. When it's really, really cold, I think the most important thing is that the fish know it's there, because they're not going to be rooting around digging for stuff if it's really cold and they're not feeding a lot. Then the most important thing is that they know it's there. So they're not the only method, but my three. I use a lot of tigers, but not in the winter. I would say that the best three winter baits are probably sweet corn, maggots, and single bright pop-ups.
Cool. Liam Banks has asked, evening legends.
Woo!
Darrell, how long would you leave sharpened hooks in the water with the camo coat on?
Well, that is a very good question. Give him a tub of pop-ups, because it's a good question because it hasn't got an exact answer. Different waters, different lakes, and different lake beds within the same lake can have more a corrosive effect on the hooks. For example, I've been fishing a little bit lately on a little lake around the corner from me. My sharpened hooks have been coming back after 8 hours, 8, 10, 12 hours, coming back as new, like no corrosion whatsoever. The pH in the water is obviously very neutral, not alkaline, not acidic. It just seems like the hooks are really lasting well. But there are other times when I've had it goes in the lake, it comes back corroded almost instantly. And my advice would be, if you're fishing somewhere that is extremely corrosive, that's rusting your hooks really quickly, like worryingly so, than to use normal hooks out the packet. Because there's no point in putting one out razor sharp in the evening, bite times in the morning. By the time you come round to the morning, that hook isn't in the condition that you put it out in. It's not even better than the one out of a normal packet. So in that situation, I would use I'd pick a very sharp one out of a standard packet. But yeah, so there isn't an answer, but you just got to gauge how long your hooks are staying in good condition. Check them. Check how long they're lasting in the water, and then make adjustments to suit.
James Sweeney is asked, Darrell, have you ever had much luck fishing frozen lakes or lakes that freeze through the night? I got to my syndicate this morning and it was frozen solid. Didn't know what to do.
Yeah, you can catch fish. You can catch fish if you're on them, whether the lake's frozen or not. I know John McAllister has caught some fish out of Burfield under the ice. He literally put his rods out, the lake froze up, he kept a hole in the ice with a boat over his rod tips, and like even from a big reasonably low stock lake like Burfield, if you're in the right spot, then you can catch them. I remember catching a 38 and a 40 pounder out of a local lake the day after it defrosted. Went down there the previous evening. Half the lake was still frozen. It had been frozen for over a week. Went down there the following day and caught the two biggest fish in the lake. And when I caught single scale out of Rockford, that and the few fish that I caught in that session, 5 or 6 fish, I can't remember. The lake had been frozen in the weeks running up to that session. And again, on top of that, I remember fishing a local park lake in Chelmsford and seeing the fish under the ice. And then when the lake melted, it melted on either bank, leaving a band of ice through the middle of the lake. I cast over the band of ice into the clear water on the other side. This is as a kid, and then caught, and we're talking like a 10-pound common, but reeled it through the clear water, then zigzagged through the ice, and then caught it. So if you're on the fish, it doesn't matter how cold it is, on the right venue, if you're on them, you can catch them.
Well, it proved it, because the start of this week, I was with Rob for our second film.
Yeah.
At an embryo lake, North Bank. We were there for two nights. The first morning, there was a bit of cat ice in the edge, and then there's basically like a thin channel, and that was pretty much frozen.
Yeah.
So you could see that it was on the, if we had another cold night, it was going to be even worse.
Yeah.
Sure enough, second night, it was going out into the main bodies of the water. So we found the fish in this channel where it's really like if you looked at the topography map, it's the shallowest area of the lake.
Yes.
And they were there.
Yeah.
Like but they weren't under the ice. They were on the edge. So the ice was coming out into the main body.
Yeah.
And they were basically just off it.
Yeah.
So he had to. We got it on the film, but he had to cut a channel, like the match.
Cut a channel in the ice.
Cut a channel in the ice. And then he cast to where the fish were, and he caught one with ice either side of him.
That's good angling. Very, very, very good angling. But one thing that's worth bearing in mind at this time of year, when it's really, really cold, is like we've had the coldest day of the year in December. Now, we're in winter, the water's cold, and you're looking for mild weather. Mild weather's going to make a good difference to your chance of catching, but so is the sunlight. When I was in my garage this morning, I was near to the garage door, and I could feel the heat coming off the door. Bear in mind, it's like 5 degrees today. I could feel the heat bouncing from the inside the garage. So the sun's radiating onto the outside of the garage, and I could feel the heat coming off of it. And that's the same on the lake. If you can find shallow water on the back of the wind that's receiving the sun, ideally near some snags or some reeds, like these are prime areas for finding fish in the early part of the year, January, February, March, April. When the water's warming up, the fish know to take advantage of these things. So look for mild weather for your open water fishing and the fish moving around. But when the weather's cold and you get a bit of sunshine, look on the back of the wind in sheltered areas where they can get out, like I say, out the wind, but in the sun and with some cover. If there's some snags, some reeds, something like that, they absolutely love that sort of stuff.
We've got a lot of questions to get through. So
Sorry, just waffling.
No, I'm not.
Yeah.
Let's go. Let's pick up some pace now. I think because otherwise we're never going to get anywhere, are
Yeah.
we? So David's asked, fishing with solid bags this week and was getting a fair few liners but no bites. Could I have done anything to force a bite?
It's a very hard question to answer that. If you're getting definitive liners and you're not catching, were you fishing too far out? If it's definitely liners, sometimes it can be undertow, sometimes it could be small fish hitting your line, it could be drifting weed, just the wind, or anything like that. But if it was definitely liners, the only thing that springs to mind to me, bear in mind I wasn't there, is were you fishing too far out? So possibly you could have changed that.
Yeah, cool. Matthew Allen, evening gents. When fishing in winter, are you concerned with the amount of oil in baits, so pellets, additives, glugs, boilies, especially in solid bags? Are you looking at using low oil stuff? Or?
It's something that it's like one of these topics that comes up every winter, especially in the old fishing magazines back in the day. Like they say, fish meal boilies don't work in the winter. You want to be changing to a cold water alternative. There's different types of oils. You can get some real thick fish oil that if you put it in your fridge, you'll notice that it turns to, it goes solid, in the fridge. It doesn't like low temperatures. But there's loads of oily things that don't go, like hemp, for example, is oily, but it's a different type of oil, so it's thin, and hemp works really well in the winter. Peanuts are really, really oily, and they work well in the winter. To be fair, when we went to Priory last year, I was fishing with really oily pellet, and although I wouldn't fish loads of it, I think a small oily bag is still pretty attractive, even in the cold weather. To be fair.
Cool. Let's have a little look. I had one. Where did it go? Apologies. Oh, here we go. This is from Mr. Carp.
Mr. Carp.
Fishing a lake where it's a 1 rod limit for zigs, what depth would you start at? Not seeing any shows, and it's 20 foot deep.
So, sorry, it's a 1 rod limit for zigs.
Yeah.
What depth would I start at in a lake that's 20 feet?
Yeah.
Right, I would say at this time of year, January, again, it's condition dependent, but personally, most of my fishing has been done in the top half. So I wouldn't say that they're going to be. I think it's unlikely that they're going to be closer to the surface than 2 foot, and I think 10 foot is the middle. So you've got an 8 foot sort of bracket there. I would try and work through that in sort of 2 foot intervals. I would try 10 foot. I would try 8 foot. I would try 6 foot. I would try 4 foot. As you get into February, I'll be looking. I wouldn't be fishing 10. I'd be fishing higher. I think February and March are very, very good months for zig fishing. And in that situation, my favourite depth that I've done the best on zigs, I would say is 4 to 7 foot down. I think 4 to 7 foot down is a great depth for zigs in the spring.
Cool. In 20?
Yeah, in a lot of lakes. Just think below the ripple, because the ripple's putting cold into it, but still close enough to the top to be getting the heat of the sun.
Yeah.
I would 3, but 4 to 7 foot down. I've caught a lot of fish in that band on a lot of lakes.
Timothy Robinson just asked briefly about what we can expect now at CarpFix is a year old, so we have kind of answered that. So Timothy, if you missed the start of the stream, watch the rerun and you'll see the answer to your question at the start. Kane Nelson has asked, hi Darrell, how do you tell the difference between male and female carp?
It's not an exact science for someone like myself. I think Simon Scott could tell you.
Speed that. Should we ring him up?
Ring him up. But there's certain things that sort of give away, especially around spawning time. When you get close to spawning time, quite often the males will be sort of have a rough. I can't think what they call it. Is it tubercles or something like that?
Is it like when they have little spots on there?
Yeah, they get rough. The skin around the head and around their shoulders gets quite rough, sort of sandpapery. That's generally a good sign that it's a male. Obviously, if they're milking, at the start around spawning time, quite often that early summer they can still be milting. So that's obviously definitely a male. The shape of the fins sometimes.
Bigger fins, aren't they? Like,
Not always, but
No?
sometimes as a general rule, that's pretty accurate, but not 100%.
Yeah.
You know, they have more rounded spoon-shaped pec fins generally than the females. But yeah, it's hard to tell exactly. You know, they're very, very similar. But unless they are milting or they've got those rough sort of spawning tubercles going on, then I wouldn't like to say definitely. You know.
Yeah. This is so people can put like a username kind of thing. Not that they have to put their actual name. So this one's put Moonscale. Moonscale has said the new Corda Armour sinking leader. Can you confirm it doesn't splice? Also, would you go direct to braided mainline or have a few turns of fluoro all braided to braid?
Is it the armour cord he's talking about?
I'm guessing so. Yeah.
And the thing is, there's armour cord as in what they use on the spod rods. You know, they do £50 sinking armour cord and they do £30 armour cord. But they also do a heavier one that I think you can splice. I've never seen it in the flesh, so unless I'm on the website looking at.
I had some of the new. Rob gave me some because we did a little bit of promo stuff for them for Caldwell, like on the side. Yeah. We got some of the new leaders with the heli.
Oh yeah, the
mini heli.
Yeah. So what did he call the product? What did he call it?
Let's have a little look. So it's a new Corda Armour sinking leader. I don't know if I don't know if he means that leader that's not the like the armour cord.
Well, they do a sinking armour cord leader, but the thing is, there's a few. There's normal armour cord, there's sinking armour cord. Neither of them are spliceable, but there is. I'm pretty sure there's an even heavier one that is spliceable.
Like the Euro guys.
Yeah, I think there is another one.
Maybe Moonscale message us.
Yeah, message me direct on Instagram, and then I'll search it on the product page, and I'll let you know.
Yeah. Let's have a little look. So Finley has asked, hi lads, just wanting to ask Darrell a quick question. If you have 3 rods on a spot, do you put 1 on a bag, for example, and 2 on a combi rig to keep up the good work? So, would you separate them up?
I tend to fish all of them the same. You know, I tend to do that. I might do if I'm messing around, like playing with it, trying to work out what's best. But generally, once I'm locked on to what I want to be doing, I tend to fish it all the same on all 3 rods.
Cool. The new masterclass, which is out
Sunday.
This Sunday. What part are you doing it? Phil Walsh is asking, are you in it?
My section is there's 3 sections. Danny's doing one on bottom baits, which includes wafters. My section is pop-up fishing in the spring, and Rob Burgess is solid bags. Mine was filmed at RK Leisure Raisbury. We did 2 sessions there. Caught on the first one, sort of, but didn't do very well. And on the second session, started slowly, finished with a bang. Like at the back end of my Raisbury session, the camera guys made me wind in because it was literally 1 a chuck, 2 a every time I cast out, all 3 rods were going, and Paul, the cameraman, was getting right upset. So
typical Paul. He wanted to go home.
Yeah, it got progressively better. So it should be a good film.
Yeah. Simon Brooks, evening chaps, Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. What are your thoughts on bait boats? I've spent years fishing dead against them, but I feel like I'm leaning towards buying one. What are your thoughts?
Well, yeah, I've been on both sides of the fence. So when I was a young lad, in my early 20s up until 30, up until the age of 30, was sort of sneered at them a little bit. Used to think that if you can't cast there, you shouldn't be fishing there, etc., etc. Because I thought that it took away an element of the skill, and if you're trying to prove something to yourself, then I can understand that train of thought. But as I've got older, I've mellowed a little bit, and if it makes my life easier, less stressful, and I enjoy my session more for what the bait boat gives, then all for it. You know, I'm not measuring myself against anybody else, and it's fishing for me is purely a personal exploit. So yeah, if I've got no qualms with it, or you've got no qualms with it, it doesn't matter what anybody else thinks. So it's completely down to you. You know, if you feel that you'll benefit from it, and you don't feel negatively about it, then by all means get one. But if you do, then fair play. Just yeah, just do what's best for you.
Yeah. Girl on the bank has asked, fishing the aquarium in May. So what's the one thing that you can't go there without if you're going in May?
May's a great time. My one bit of advice about May would be to avoid the deeper water. The shallow water in May is absolutely key. So there's a big central clear area in the middle of the lake that is marked on the map, and I imagine a lot of people will gun for the swims that fish to this central deep trough. The fish won't be down in that depth at that time of year. I'm almost certain of that. So I would pick a swim with clear spots in shallower water, in the shallower zones, and probably fish. Because I didn't see any. We had no problem with nuisance fish. I think sweet corn, yellow pop-ups will be an absolute win.
Yeah, there were a few tench around.
Yeah,
Did you have any?
I think I had a bream.
Yeah, so there are some knocking it about.
Yeah, but
not like roach and stuff. We didn't really see too many big shoals or anything.
No, we're fishing with casters, and if that were bad, we'd have got mown down. But my advice would be just don't get drawn into that big central deep clear spot. Look for a nice swim with some shallow water. In spring, they quite often follow the wind in the spring. Not all around then. You can there's a good chance they'll follow the wind in May. So you can look at the weather in preparation of your trip, see where it's blowing. The point opposite where Derek and I fished would be a great shout. Particularly, I think there's two swims on that point that were opposite where Derek and I were, and the left-hand one of them, I liked that swim. That was where the fish were during our stay there. So that'd be a good spot. That.
Okay, cool. Lincoln has asked, what is your most embarrassing moment on the bank?
I once, a very, very, very long time ago, I think I was about 19, I drank a few beers and then crashed my bike into the lake, and the bike got tangled in my legs, and someone had to lift me out of the lake.
Nice.
Yeah, a long time ago.
Let's have a little look here. So I'm on a syndicate and would like to start introducing some bait to some areas of the lake. How much and when would you start?
Say again, sorry.
So he's on a syndicate and would like to start introducing some bait to some areas of the lake. How much and when would you start?
I think you can start baiting up from March is a good time. In the winter, a lot of the time the bird life is just absolutely manic and the fish aren't eating loads. But I think March is a good time to start. And the real key to baiting, is the regularity of it. It's not about whacking 10 kilos in every day or every other day or once a week. If you've got a few known spots where the fish like to frequent on the lake, spots where they go, or you've got some nice obvious features. If you were to walk around that lake and put 30 boilies on each of the spots that you like the look of or that have done fish, and you were to do that every other day all the time, because if you live local, then that would be the best way to do it. Continually just trickling bait onto spots is the key rather than big dumps. That would be my advice.
Cool. Richard Beals has asked thoughts on hooking ability with a helicopter setup if fishing the bead higher up the leader, causing possibly more movement.
Say again.
Thoughts on hooking ability with the helicopter setup if fishing the bead higher up the leader.
Okay, that's a good question. You can have a tab of pop-ups. That's cool. A good question. So you push the bead up the leg core to allow for presentation. It's basically you're giving yourself some insurance that if you do land in a bit of bottom debris, that the rig is more likely to still be fishing. But that does come at the cost of the efficiency of the hooking mechanism to a degree. Obviously, the fish is not in direct contact with the lead the second that it tensions the hook link. It's in contact with where the rig connects either to the leader or to the main line if you're fishing it naked. But that's where a really, really, really sharp hook comes into its own. So, if you're fishing with razor sharp Kamakuras, hand sharpened hooks, any degree of tension off of that leader, off of the tension in your line, will be enough to that hook point to catch. But on the flip side, if you're fishing with a blunt hook, there is more chance of the fish ejecting that rig, pricking, but being able to blow it out if it hasn't been whacked by the weight of the lead. So, yeah, if you are fishing with lighter leads or with beads pushed up the line, your hook sharpness is crucial anyway, but it becomes even more critical because you are correct in saying that the rig is, by having the bead up, the rig is less efficient in a mechanical way, but presentation way, it's a bit of this.
Yeah. Adam has asked, what are the benefits of braid over mono?
You can have a tub of pop-ups as well.
Yeah. Adam, can you can you email me, because I haven't got your surname on here, so if you email scott@carpfix.tv, I'll make sure you get some.
Yeah, so I'm guessing he's talking about fishing, because he's not talking about his plumbing rod or his spawn rod. So, for example, mono is more user-friendly for, when you're playing fish. You've got room. If you're not experienced, you've got time. The line will stretch before the clutch goes and stuff, and you don't get. It's not as herky jerky and instant contact. You've got less chance of hook pulls using mono over braid, and obviously mono is less visible in the water generally. But braid is much more sensitive. If you're plumbing, clipping up to spots, it's much more accurate because there's zero stretch in braid. Mono, when you're casting, especially thin monos, you're hitting the clip at long range, the line is really, really stretching out with the weight of the lead. So your braid is less stretchy, more accurate, and we all know accuracy is one of the biggest things in carp fishing, especially when you're spot fishing. Depending if you use floating or sinking braid, is really good. They call the sub braid. It's quite coarse. Doesn't cast. I wouldn't say it's certainly not a long range casting braid. In fact, I would say it's the opposite. I've fished with it sort of up to 25, 26, 27. You might be able to go a bit further, but because of its coarseness and how heavy it is, it doesn't tend to cast really, really well. But on the flip side, it is bomb proof. I've had some serious battles in situations where I thought, I'm going to lose this. It's terminal. It's all over. And you go to pull for a break, and suddenly the braid rips up half a tree, and then the fish comes up, and you think, I didn't deserve to land that, and you do. So yeah, it is strong stuff, that sub braid.
Okay, so we've got one from Tessel. Hi, Darrell Scott. Happy New Year. Happy New Year to you. Darrell, I saw the video of you using a carp lounge bait boat. Do you really think that bait boats have a place in carp fishing?
Well, obviously, otherwise I wouldn't be using it. Yeah, I can see, obviously, by the tone of that question that you perhaps disagree. But as I said in the previous question, it's carp fishing is a personal exploit, and if I or anyone else wants to use a bait boat, then as long as they aren't interfering with any other anglers, then by all means do so. But if you don't want to use one, don't use one. But like to look at someone negatively because they do, I think I just think that's not the right way to think. You should enjoy your fishing for what it is and not be looking down at someone because they choose to use one.
Yeah. So we've got one from Charlton Shimwell. Can hooks be too sharp? I've become a bit obsessive and reeling in, finding corroded, etc. Yeah,
I think in certain situations they can definitely be too sharp. As in, when I say too sharp, too fine. If you file them down, they can almost become like hair-like. And I just get paranoid that even if you brush a leaf on the bottom, then they get burred. So, yeah, I think there's definitely an art to getting it correct. And like I said, there's certain situations where I don't sharpen my hooks anymore, or I just do a little put the jag stone on the inner side of the point. I do that a lot these days. Packet hooks are sharp. Kamakuras are next level, but the Kamakuras aren't for every single situation. If you're snag fishing, I don't think it's ideal because like that bladed point under heavy pressure can tear a little bit. and if you're fishing over really rough ground, then the hook's going to, like a really, really, really sharp hook's going to burr all the time. And if you're catching loads and loads and loads of fish, then you don't need to be using a hook that sharp. But as I said on a couple of questions back, if you're fishing the helicopter rig with a bead up the line and every bite really, really matters, then a sharp hook is going to convert more pickups into takes. No, there's no doubt about that.
Cool. Kel has asked, what's your views on the importance of line lay? Do you sacrifice bite indication for completely slack lines on heavily pressured waters and also fishing certain zones?
I think with regard to bite indication is one of the least things that I worry about. If the fish is hooked, the fish is hooked. Whether you find out about it the second it picks the rig up, or if you find out 5 seconds later, there's not. If you're snag fishing, that's a different ball game. But if you're just fishing in open water on a heavily pressured lake with a slack line and the fish picks up, hooks itself, and you find out about it 5 seconds later, that's better than having a bowstring tight line and stopping the fish getting into your swim. So slack lines can really help to keep your swim less obviously being fished, and 3 bowstrings on the flip side cutting through your swim can definitely put the fish on edge, stop them feeding, stop the fish staying in your swim, scare them off. So there's a time and place for tight and slack, but if you can get away with it and you think you can get your line down closer to the bottom by slacking it off, I think it is an advantage.
Cool. Jason has asked, Darrell, do you think you could have fished the aquarium lake with a spread of bait and chod style, which is kind of what we said before? Do you think?
Yes. Yeah, you saw me using the bait boat there because I sort of had a preconceived idea what I wanted to do before I got there. And in hindsight, having now fished there, we only fished to where the fish were in the second half of the session. We only realised they were over the other side. And if I was in that left-hand point swim and I was fishing with chod rigs, stiff hinge rigs, I could have cast anywhere and catapulted boilies over the top and caught. Definitely. 100%, But because me and Derek were side by side socialising, and eventually we were both fishing in front of the same swim. We were, our rods, we were going together, so we were both catching. If I was on that point opposite, then only one of us had been catching, and it was better for the film for us to catch them the way that we did.
Yeah, you kind of almost pressured them into that zone
and just picked them off.
Yeah. Let's have a little look. Welsh boilie basher. Do you think maggots attract carp, or do you think the smaller fish feeding introducing inquisitive feeding response?
No, I think they really attract carp. I think obviously there can be situations where the little fish, maybe their activity draws the fish in, but even without little fish activity, maggots are highly, highly attractive. Whether it's the fact that they are very close to natural food, like if they eat a lot of bloodworm, then they're a reasonably close alternative to that. Whether it's the fact that the wriggling in the water causes some sort of vibrations that they pick up on, that's another possibility. But I think one of the most likely is the fact that they are alive and they're sweating. I think a lot of the time they're sweaty, they've got some, like the moisture on their bodies. I think that in the water is soluble, goes into the water column. The fish pick up on that, and I think that's one of the biggest things that people say, you want really clean maggots, you don't want them when they're smelly. Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think they like stinky stuff like that.
I'm going to give Welsh boilie basher some pop-ups.
Yeah, that's a good question.
So, Welsh boilie basher, can you send me a message, please? Because I don't know what your real name is because you've used a different. Best capture you have witnessed by someone else?
Ooh, there's some good ones. Pull forward at the Orient. I've told that in the big carp story. Caught a 60-pounder that was covered in scales on a real windy night when I was dooming. I was absolutely dooming. Thought we had no chance, and he was confident. That was a great capture, great carp. A guy I know called Matt Jackson, who caught single scale before I did from Rockford in November. It was was the second biggest carp I'd ever seen on the bank at the time. I'd seen 2-tone at 65. I thought we were fishing for a couple of scraper 50s, which are big fish, and he caught this fish. I think it was around fireworks night, November 5th, something like that. Like I said, November, that first week is prime big carp time. He caught 57 pounder from Rockford. It blew my mind. Matt's quite a small guy, and to see a carp that big at that time of year on him, I just remember thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was Girl on the Bank. I'm going to give another one out because you said it was a good question, I'm going to decide. So Girl on the Bank, send us a message again and we'll sort some
pop-ups out
for you. Ray Smith has asked, fishing Elsons, very old carp, murky water, fishing very hard. What would your go-to bait or rig for this type of fishing, very silty and clear bottom?
Right, well, I don't know Elsons, but if it's silty but clear, says into no weed, it's just a case of presenting on top of the silt. Hinge sieve rig is absolutely brilliant for that. Pushing the bead up the line a little bit. Solid bags, if the silt's soft, then solid bags probably not the best way to go. I remember seeing a Carpology magazine feature where someone chucked a solid bag out into a silty area, and when they went out to look for it, it punched a hole and just disappeared out of sight. It was buried. I think PVA sticks can be a good one. Fish light leads so that they really aren't drilling down into the bottom, and a slightly longer rig. Not 8 to 10 inches would be sort of where I would look to fish with a light lead and a PVA stick. The PVA stick would slow the lead during its descent. The rig, the small lead, will plug in the silt and have the effect of a bigger lead because it's plugged in a little bit, and then the little stick bag, can come down and rest on top of the silt. So they're the two main ones I'd go in with: the stick on the long braided rig, PVA stick that is, and the hinge diff over the top with the B pushed up.
Cool. Let's have a little look. So we've got Jake Joyce has asked, loving all the content as per, what is the best fluoro for hook links on a spinner, please? Trying to be more stealthy now that the water clarity has changed.
I would probably use the boom still. I think you could use 15-pound IQ or 20-pound IQ. But if you look at even that 25-pound boom that Corda do, crimps really, really nicely. And despite it being 25 pound, it's very clear. It's got a nice little green tint to it. You chuck it in the edge, it's very, very hard to see. So I'm always wary of going light. If you want to go light, try the 15-pound IQ, like I say. But I would probably recommend the 25-pound boom to stay with that.
Yeah. Seconds. Rapachi has said, loving the content, thanks guys. Darrell, you improved my angling no end on a tuition years ago, and a UK 40 followed not long after. Cheers. And he's put in brackets, Alan Sugar's mate.
Alan Sugar's mate, give us some pop-ups.
Rapachi, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, but send us an email and I will send some out to you.
Good.
Let's have a little look in a second. Just trying to scroll through, find one. Phil Walsh, if you could fish with anybody by your side, who would you choose to fish with and why?
Currently, probably be Derek. I like Derek's company. He's a long-time carp angler, in it for all the right reasons. Passion, even at 60 years old, to the nth degree. Good time guy, not overly competitive, wants to catch him on his own terms, and he's just, he's always happy, always smiling. If it hasn't worked, we'll try something else. He always wants to be there, always wants to carry on, which is top.
Good. Yeah. 1 second, had a couple to go through. So Damon has asked, does the winner get an email, never see a name on a video title after their live? So I'm guessing he means about the main giveaways we do. So I send it from the main giveaways that we do. I send an email out and arrange shipping it out to them. It's also, I might not have done it on the last live, but if you go to the description of the live videos where we do the previous giveaway. So, for example, this giveaway is the January one. The December one.
Yeah.
All the winners will be listed below in the description of this video when we post the rerun.
Yeah, so if you look at the reruns, you can see who's won the prizes on the months going back.
Yeah, you can either watch it live and see the actual giveaway result again, or you can just go on a description. I don't think I did it for the last one. I think I might have forgot. But yeah, I send an email out to everyone anyway.
Yeah.
John Wallace, love Willow Park. Think it fished hard while Rob was there. Did fish very hard. Let's have a little look. Thomas, evening guys, happy new year for you, both of you. Scott, do you have any plans for some other fishing related content? I would like to see, for example, some serious about carp breeding and farming. Could we do that?
I'm sure we could do a little bit with Simon Scott. I'm sure he'd love to have us there. And I know there's been stuff done with him before, but if there was anything specific that you've not seen, or something you haven't seen that you'd really like to see, then I'm sure Simon would love to get us in a pair of waders helping out.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we can do something like that. But yeah, I haven't really. Obviously, we're focusing at the moment on putting 3 films out every month. Yeah. Which is the main priority. So I haven't really thought about other things. I'd like to do a Pecky fishing with Tom Maker. Yeah. Do that, and maybe you and Rob as well. Yeah. Something like that would be good. Just a little bit different.
Good when you got 2 people, isn't it? Like even obviously when we went to CarpFix, that was received really well. When having 2 people fishing I think it's a great. One person fishing is good, but 2 people fishing, bouncing off each other is better.
Yeah, so it makes for a good show. Yeah. Liam, you keep asking the same question. We did it at the start about the camera coat before losing their edge. So just watch the rerun and you'll see the answer there. Maurice Whiteheads has asked, what's your thoughts on PVA in the past? I've wound in to find blobs on the hook or lead, and it does my head in.
Yeah, I think in the cold weather, I think you, especially when you're tying off solid PVA bags around the back of your inline leads and whatnot, you do sometimes get a little bit of snot round there, when you're tying knots. But yeah, as long as I tend not to put my hook point anywhere near any knots. I know some people do, but yeah, I tend not to put my hook near the knots because I think the rest of it melts quite freely. It's the knotting of the material that stops the water fully getting to it. So if you are tying off solid bags, I quite like Rob Burgess' method of a little bit of PVA tape and then tying a couple of overhand knots in that, because I find that melts a lot better than when some people do that massive lick and stick thing where you twist it round, and I think that just is more prone to leaving a load of mess.
So Rob's masterclass is on solid bags, isn't it? So he'll probably cover how he does it.
I think if you watch that film that comes out Sunday from Rob Burgess, there's I've said earlier in this live, like the finesse to his tech is unrivaled. He does.
I'm thinking about a name for his series of videos. Yeah, and I was thinking about just something simple, like One Step Ahead, but I could do Carp Finesse.
Yeah. He's.
What are you saying?
I think finesse. He has definitely got a bit of finesse. He's got that. The attention to detail is one of the biggest things in carp fishing. Accuracy, making sure everything is perfect. Because if you're that'll do, then a lot of time it won't do. You haven't quite done it right. And Rob is not that'll do. He is not like that.
Yeah, very true. Let's have a little look. Oops, went down. Elliot Dringhill has asked, would you fish big baits on a stiff hinge when using a snowman or a scaled down version for winter?
I have never fished a snowman on a stiff hinge. A snowman is a wafter presentation, a slow sinking bait. I'm not saying you can't use it on a stiff hinge, but a stiff hinge is a pop-up rig. That's so I wouldn't fish a snowman on a stiff hinge.
Okay. Wesley has asked, why do you use such long zigs when you can just use adjustables?
I do use adjustables.
Why do some people because they don't know how to use it.
Well, it depends how far you got to cast them as well. Adjustable zig rigs don't cast very well. You know, they're not very aerodynamic. I remember fishing on a fun European carp match at Gigantica years ago, I think in tackle, and I was fishing 21-foot zigs, like over 100 yards out. So I did try with the adjustable zig rigs, but I had heavy nylon on, and it was hard to get them out the range that I wanted to fish them. And if you've got someone there to help you net them, then you can just fish long hook links. But if you haven't got someone there to net them, the adjustables are beneficial when they help you to work the depth, but on negative, they don't cast very well.
Yeah. Okay, so James has said, evening guys, CarpFix Live is head and shoulders above the other podcast show in regards to format and interaction. Who's taking the credit?
Scott.
No. I think it's everyone. Even like the trailer that we showed earlier, Ash did that. So that allowed us to make the show a little bit better. You've obviously got the companies that support us as well. That makes it like that. The platform that we use, like the back end system of that. You know how you're watching this now. There is literally. There's over 100 people that work at this company. Yeah. Not CarpFix.
Yeah.
But they got a part to play in it as well. So it's not. Yeah. It's a collective, I think.
I think also like on a lot of these podcasts, they're not answering questions. They're just talking.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very hard to know what the guy on the other end of the camera wants to see. So by people giving us the questions, we are giving the content that you want.
Yeah.
So
it's
that's
like,
it's answering your questions. It's a good part of the CarpFix.
Yeah. If we went off on a different tangent, then you probably wouldn't be interested. But if you want to know an answer to a question, it's something you want, isn't it? So.
Yeah.
But we're pleased you like it. Should we give him a tub of pop-ups?
Yeah.
James Burke. We'll do the draw soon.
Oi.
We're getting close. Chris Thomas has asked, hi lads, are there any other fishing anglers coming to the channel?
Well, never say never. At the moment, there's no immediate plans, is there, to get any...
I mean, you might not know, if you only just joined, you might not know about Rob.
Yeah. So like, as we stand, it's Tom, Rob, Lee Mozza Morris and myself. Derek is going to make little cameos with us. Going to try and do more films with two people in. I think that's a good thing to do. But yeah, it's at the moment we've only just taken Rob on, so I don't think there's no immediate rush.
We're on to the next stage at the moment, like we keep saying, putting the three fishing films out, which is a tough job to do.
Yes, it's a big
every month.
Yeah. So
try and get over that hurdle first, and then we'll probably expand further
from there. Yeah.
But time will tell. Gary. Oh no, I've done that one. Here we go. Arizona Londoner. What are your thoughts on refreezing boilies after use? Are you one for using them straight from the freezer? It's Peter from Arizona.
Yeah, I don't think it hurts. It depends what stage they're in when you put them back in the freezer, for example. If they've already gone bad, as in like they're turned, gone mouldy, and you put them back in the freezer, that's not going to help. But if you've kept them cool, kept them dry, and if they're in a usable state when you put them back in the freezer, I think that's fine. Maybe even a couple of times, as long as if they smell different, if they start to smell different, then I'm not saying that's not good, because sometimes mouldy bait, I've caught loads of fish on bait that's on the turn, so I wouldn't overly worry about it. But like Derek, for example, he's bang on about fresh bait. He thinks fresh bait's the king. You know, he really thinks fresh bait's important. Whereas I've poured mouldy boilies, got blue all over them in the edge to get rid of them because I think they've gone bagged, and then found fish eating them. So I think you put bait back in the freezer. But if it does start to smell different, then move on to another batch.
Yeah. How long would you leave tigers for before they go bad?
I've answered this. I tend to use fresh tigers personally. I boil them 24 hours before I go fishing. and I'll use them during the session from that point, whether that be a 3-nighter or a week session. But just to make you feel a little bit at ease with it, I once had a bucket in my van from October, November time. So it was in there all of October, all the way through until the following May. I found some fish in the edge, wanted to put some bait on a spot, but when I was going to go away from the lake, thought I'm going to have to drive all the way home and all the way back to bait this spot, or I've got those tigers that have been in my van since the previous October. They smelt rank, really smelt like alcohol.
Like fermented and horrible.
Yeah, it smelled like booze, like real strong and sharp, vinegary sort of smell. I was paranoid about putting them on the spot because I thought it could ruin the spot before I've got it going, and they mould on them. Anyway, I poured them all on this spot. I went home, came back 2 days later. They turned the bottom into a crater.
Really?
Caught 2 fish off that spot that night. So they'd been eating this bait that really rancid and horrible. I then rebaited it with boilies, and I never saw another fish on it ever again.
Really? Jesus.
I think what actually happened is they made such a big clear spot in the bottom from eating the mouldy ones that it was too obvious after that.
Yeah.
It was a small spot that became like a massive crater.
Connor Pooley has asked, please can you advise for pre-baiting, planning to pre-bait a local park lake with low angling pressure, not too sure on stock, but certainly over 50 on a 2-acre lake, very weedy but spots easily found. How would you pre-bait?
Depends.
Would you pre-bait?
Yeah, I don't do a lot of pre-baiting because I don't tend to fish the same lake regularly enough, and generally the lakes I fish are busy. But that doesn't mean pre-baiting isn't good. Pre-baiting is very good. You know, if you can train fish to think that they're getting a free meal, they will come, and they really, really will. But again, it's not always about masses and masses of baits. You know, Derek, a good friend of mine, he fishes on the canals a lot, and he isn't throwing 10 kilos out left, right, and centre. He's literally just little and often. Just the regularity is the more important bit. If they get used to finding something somewhere regularly, they'll tune into not only the spot, they'll tune into what you're feeding them. So, like if it's a 2-acre lake, you could pick 3, 4, 5 spots around the lake and just put 30, 40 boilies on each of them every other day. And if you're consistent, the real key is consistency. If you can do it consistently, those fish will get on those spots and they'll get on that bait.
Yeah. Jack Heffer is fishing Match Pit in Colchester.
Yeah.
You ever fish there?
Yeah.
Is that in Layer Pit? Is that where that's where we went, isn't it?
We went to Layer Pit, but I wouldn't say it's very close to that. I can't think what the name.
Anyway, he's fishing zigs. I'm thinking zigs in a lake with an average depth of say 10 foot. So what length zig would you recommend? So at 20 foot, we were at what, 5 to 7? You said?
Well, we were saying sort of 4 to 7 foot below the surface.
Yeah.
And if it's 12 foot, I would still.
It's 10 foot deep. Where he's
10 foot deep.
I guess he's going at this time of year, so
10 foot deep. I reckon 4 to 6 foot is your best bet in that band. Oh yeah, I'd say 4 to 6 foot is a great. You know, it's not a lot to work with that. You know,
if you got a couple of rods,
yeah,
then you can do it both,
and
then
5 foot down's a great depth, and if you're right foot either side of that, 5 foot's the middle in 10 foot, isn't it?
Yeah.
If you can see them on the surface, then by all means go higher. But I don't think you go wrong with a 5 footer, 5 foot, something like that.
Yeah. James Burke has said, struggling with confidence when fishing zig line, the twist and potential tangles. Have you got any tips?
Yeah, I quite often find zigs disposable, as in like the hook links. I tend to tie them fresh for every single time I chuck out. Obviously, when you're fishing on the bottom, you know, your end tackle has the opportunity to blend in with a background. When you're fishing with a zig rig, it has no backdrop. It's literally stood up through the clear water, picking up sediment, standing out like a sore thumb. So I always think to clean off your zigs where possible. If they get kinks in them, start to look ugly, change them. it's just I'm always trying to do it as the best I can. So yeah, change your hook links frequently because the hook links tend not to cost very much money. Make sure they're non-kinked, not not debris built up on the line. Clean them off and nice and straight. You don't want a big old wavy thing going up.
How do you make it like straight?
Well, it depends on the product. Like fluorocombs, for example, you can straighten out. You can give them a little bit of a stretch, but to keep them straight, they just need to be fresh off the spool.
Right.
Like nice.
Just using new
hook link. Those monos don't cost a lot. To keep changing them.
Richard Beals says, how do you fish for liners during the winter if you physically can't find any signs of fish?
I can't say that I've ever really very often deliberately fished for liners. So yeah, I wouldn't say that is a good method. If you're getting liners, then that's a good sign. But I wouldn't say I deliberately set out to get liners.
Yeah. Let's have a look. 1 second. When fishing a zig, would you say foam is better or a pop-up?
It's a hard one to answer. I've caught on both. Black foam, unflavoured black foam, is in clear water. I just think it's the bee's knees. It really is. A lot of people talk black and yellow. I've caught a lot on yellow. I think when it's really really cold, and I sort of learnt this at Bundy's a little bit, which I've talked about in the big carp story. Just recently.
And coming out end of Feb, 28th of February.
Yeah, I caught the biggest fish in a lake that's 55 foot deep, 40 foot off the bottom, so 15 foot below the surface on an unflavoured piece of black foam. But after that session of catching that big one, I'd done a fair bit more zigging on there, and I think when it's really really cold, I think the brighter colours like yellow and red are very good. Sort of alerting for the fish, but in the spring as it warms up and the fish are really high to the water, I think that black, the silhouette of it is good, and it's not about smell. I think carp can see very well in low light. I believe that it's lighter outside than it is down below, and I think everyone seems to think that you want the fish. One of the common things I've read in the magazines is you want the fish to come down onto the zig. I don't actually think that's true. I think if it's a little bit above, I think they're more likely to come up onto it. I think everyone seems to think that if your zig's at the perfect depth, they just touch down onto it. But a carp's eyes are on the top of its head, and I think the perfect zig is set 6 inches, a foot higher than where they're at.
Yeah, I think it makes sense, because if you're like with the light penetrating the water during the day, at least, if a fish is above it, it's going to be able to see more. But if it's below the target bait, it's going to be like, what is that a bit more? Because it might have a bit of there might be like sunlight or something making it silhouetted.
Yeah, whether it's light, moonlight, dark. Yeah, it's lighter outside the lake than it is under the water. It's darker under. Yeah. So if it's looking up, it's looking silhouette. At a lighter thing, and that's a shadow. Silhouette bang against it. Yeah.
Right, let's try and find another question. Joey Thomas, I've been using the Activate the last few years with good results, but starting mixing it with a few new fibre. Have you used the new fibre yet? And what do you think of it? Have you caught many on it?
Not used it a lot, but I fished at Orient in 2018 with it. And I don't know why I haven't used it since, because I caught a rake of big ones on it on that session. And I sort of thought of it as not a very oily bait. But I air dried it because I was going to France, and then I rehydrated it in lake water when I arrived, and the fat that came out of it, the oil and stuff, I was like, wow. And I think it's a very porous bait. Even though I'd air dried it for weeks on end, as soon as I put lake water on it, it took it on like a sponge. So I think it's a very porous bait that the water gets into really well, very digestible. It's good bait. In fact, I should be using that more often. I should be, but there's so many baits. It's very hard to use them all. In recent, just since I fished at Raysbury last spring, I watched fish eating essential cell in the snags, woofing them back, and that gave me a lot of confidence in the essential cell. So this year I fished quite a bit with the essential cell, I like Cell, I like Fibre, I like Activate. So it's hard. It's hard. They're all good.
Lots of baits. Chris Thomas, Darrell, would you ever fish Redmire?
Yeah, I'd fish Redmire. Yeah, I'd. Maybe we could go there one day and do a film. I know.
I filmed there once when I worked at Fishing TV with. I think it was with Chris Yates.
Yeah, no, I've never been there, and I would certainly like to go there.
Yeah, wicked place.
Yeah.
Matthew Crisp. Evening, guys. Will you show in Peckers Teckers your stiff hinge rig, as it looks so different to everyone else's?
We can do, but it is available to see on the. You can go onto YouTube, and there's a Thinking Tackle with me and Oscar at Embryo Cables Lake, and there is it's obviously not as in depth as what we do on Peckers Teckers, but it's there. You know, you can see how to tie it and what I've said about it on there.
Yeah, done that one. Jason has asked, would you use a lot of particles at this time of year, as in 5 kilo plus?
Not in one hit. You know, obviously, like we said at the aquarium, we got through a lot of bait because we were catching a lot of fish. And if you look, say you're saying this time of year, if you look back at our day session films at Layer Pits, we caught a lot of fish, and we were baiting with hemp primarily. There's a little bit of sweet corn and that in there, and probably went through 5 kilos of hemp in a day, but we didn't put 5 kilos out per bite. You know, it's you put in 10 or 15 spoms out, catching a few, putting 10 or 15 spoms out, catching a few. So I really think there's not many occasions in carp fishing when you need to put, not very often, where you need to put more than 20 spoms out to get it going. Like a 20 spom start up, which a big spom will be a couple of kilos of particle. I rarely think that you need more than that to start. You know, 6 is enough generally to get something going. But if there's a lot of fish in the lake, you might need a bit more.
Cool. Jason says, evening lads, I've just joined a new syndicate. I would like to know what would be your first approach when starting at the time this time of year on a new venue. So he's fishing a new syndicate.
Just to be looking for the fish, you know. The first thing, obviously, never seen your lake before. The first thing I'll be looking for is the fish. Failing not seeing fish, it's taking into account the very obvious features. You know, if there's islands, reed beds, lily beds, snags, you know, obvious features that could hold carp. You know, sometimes you just see a massive reed bed, and if it's got a good depth of water in it, you know, February, March, April, May, the fish are going to be getting in that for cover, warmth. Lily beds are great. Even when they're dead, fishing amongst the roots can be really, really good at this time of year. So yeah, my opening thing is to look for fish, and failing not finding fish is to look for the very obvious features that look like they'd hold fish.
Yeah. I did have one there. Yeah, okay. What's your thoughts on undertow on a lake? How far off the spot will baits like maggots and crumb travel as opposed to boilies or tigers?
Okay, I think tigers and boilies are going to go pretty much straight down. They're going to wobble a bit, not in the undertow, but they're going to flutter down. But they're going to do that if there wasn't any undertow. Fine crumb can drift off, no doubt about that. Fine crumb, maggots definitely can drift off a little bit. If you're concerned about it, the real way to get around it is to get the consistency of your mix. You know, if you can get it sort of cement-like, so it's sort of holding together a little bit, it will go down as one. Or you can even make it more firm than cement mix. Obviously, it's going to then break down on the bottom. Or you could put little mesh bags of whatever it be, maggots or crumb inside your spom. Obviously, you'd have to dry it out, but I would lean on the side of making your mix more compact, so it's holding together if you're concerned about undertow. But yeah, I wouldn't worry too much unless it's really, really, really windy.
Cool. Richard has asked, do you pay much attention to where your hook hold is in the mouth?
Never used to.
I'm going to give Ollie, that was Ollie Horsewell
Yeah.
before, I'm going to give him a tub.
Yeah, it's something that I have paid more attention to in recent times. You know, I don't tend to mess around with rigs too much, and I tend to get my favourites. But the last couple of years, I've really stumbled on a couple that I'm really happy with. That combi multi-rig fish with a size 6 wide gape has been absolutely deadly for me. You know, the hook to land ratio on it, amazing. Like I say, that video's on Pecker's Tech, as you can see that exactly. You know, the getting the lengths absolutely as I've described, like perfectly as I've described. The hook to land ratio on that is phenomenal, and they're not always in the dead centre of the bottom lip, but they're side or bottom. What's more important than where the hook is how many come to the landing net. That's the judge. You know, that's if you're landing 9 out of 10, that's what I would say is the bottom requirement. If you can land more than 9 out of 10, you're on to an absolute winner. And that combi multi-rig and the stiff hinge rig that I've been using in recent times are both extremely reliable.
Cool. We'll do a couple more and then we'll do the draw, okay?
Perfect.
So we've got Scotty21. I'm off out to a lake in France at the end of March, which is 1 kilometre long. I'm there for a week along with 11 other anglers. What would your approach tactics be to outwit these pressured fish?
Say that one more time.
So he's out in France with 11 other anglers in March. The lake's 1 kilometre long.
Yeah.
He's there for a week. What would your approach and tactics be to outwit the pressured fish?
Just look for them. You know, when they're in March, they're not eating loads, but they are up for something. If the water's got a degree of clarity to it, if you think those carp can see your pop up, if you think they can see it from more than a metre away, then casting to showing fish will be absolutely lethal, especially in the shallower water. If they've got reeds, reed beds are a real good holding area, sort of March time. If the water's coloured, then you might be better off with a solid bag approach. Solid bag's got lots of attraction, but not too much food, and very, very good in coloured water. But yeah, generally speaking, shallow zones. The fish can come really shallow in March. If it's real rough and cold and freezing, they can be deep. But yeah, don't ignore the shallow water in March.
Cool. And Damon has asked, what's tomorrow's film? So he must have only joined. So whilst I get the my phone ready to do the draw, we'll just play you the minute trailer for tomorrow's film, which is the first film with Rob Burgess. He is at Willow Park Fishery. I'll play that and then we'll do the draw, okay?
Perfect.
Oh, what's that? Onset. There's a fish. That same area where they were the other day. Jeez! Welcome to my first CarpFix instalment, and you join me at Willow Park Fishery in Hampshire. The middle of December, super cold, but we're going to give it a good go. It's been like SeaWorld today out there, and they're getting right on me, look. I've really tried today. I've persevered with the zigs, the solid bags, and I've also got that baited spot established. This is pretty much my go-to zig rig wherever I'm fishing. Tail rubber onto my main line, leg clip, and underneath the leg clip I've got a size 8 quick chain swivel. I've done that fish. Oh. Thank the Lord.
Okay, so we're about to do the draw for the DNA baits giveaway. We've got £500 worth of prizes to give away, divided into 5 £100 bundles, and each bundle contains 5 kilos of 15mm bug shelf life boilies, 1 kilo of bug stick mix, 1 kilo of bug pellets, 1 bug corker wafters in mixed sizes, half-tone pop-ups in 12mm, corker pop-ups in 15mm, hydro spod syrup, bait soak, and liquid food. So a lovely, lovely little bundle. 5 winners, please, Scott.
Let's go for it, shall we?
Yeah.
Right. So you see the phones there on the middle of the screen. So all we're going to do is I'm going to press a tap to draw, and it'll scroll through, and we'll just select 5 people.
Lovely job.
And I'll try and take a screenshot if I can, because that's the easiest thing to do. So Here we go. Dan Mott. Right, I think I do that. There we go.
Yeah, screen grabbed.
Yeah. So Dan is the first winner.
Well done, Dan.
Neil Histed. Screenshot you.
Well done, Neil.
3 to go. Will Barber.
Well done, Will.
Mark Casey.
Well done, Mark.
And then last one, yeah?
Last one.
Thomas de Moot. I'm going to guess...
That's a Belgian or a Dutch.
Yeah, he's one of our European members.
Yeah, I would say.
Luckily, DNA is available in Europe, so we will should be able to easily get it to you.
Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah, well, congratulations to the 5 winners. And like we say, next month we'll be giving away 2 sets of 3 Delkim TXIDs with receivers. And all you have to do is be a member when we do the next
Yeah, we're going to change it up a little bit. So you can enter the giveaway up until basically probably like midday on the day of the CarpFix Live.
Yeah.
So it gives people a bit more of a chance. If they do happen to unsubscribe and they still want to enter, it gives them a bit more of a chance. So the other thing to mention as well, because obviously we want to grow CarpFix as much as possible. One of the ways that we're going to try and do that is these CarpFix Lives will remain exclusive for the stream, so you can only really interact with us and watch it live if you're a member, but after, just to make it almost like a piece of marketing material to hopefully grow the platform and allow us to bring on new people, etc. And we're going to put it on YouTube after it's been streamed. Probably, I mean, I'm still in the process of uploading some of them, so it'll go on after it's been streamed. And we're also going to put it on the podcast app, the Apple Podcast app, so people can listen. Hopefully, it'll just reaches out to a wider audience. People will become aware of us that aren't. Hopefully you understand if you're a member. We're not going to pee you off too much.
Yeah, well, it's still the live is still exclusive for the members to art. You can't interact unless you're a member.
Yeah.
We're going to be producing more fishing films in place of, and just putting it out on YouTube afterwards. Like you say, it shows us to a wider audience and might encourage more people to join, which will help us grow and increase the output of films that we can deliver.
Yeah, and we're not going to go and start putting our main videos on YouTube. It's literally just the CarpFix Live. Just because it's quite a relaxed live stream that we do, and hopefully people find it instructional, informational, and they want to see more, or they want to be part of the live. So that was just a little bit on that anyway.
Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us this evening, and I'm glad you're enjoying the content, and we'll see you next month.
Yeah, see you in February.